Every single trader who has ever reached consistent profitability, without exception, has lived through one defining moment when the entire game suddenly made sense. It never arrives with fanfare. It does not coincide with a green-streaked account statement, nor does it descend during a period when everything feels effortless and the charts seem to obey your every thought. That moment slips in almost unnoticed, usually in the dead of night, after yet another losing trade has closed and the room is silent except for the low hum of your computer cooling down. You sit there, staring at a red equity curve that looks like a battlefield, and something inside you finally, irrevocably shifts. Before we continue, make this commitment. This channel isn't about quick fixes, it's about developing traders with mental strength and discipline. If that resonates with you, join us. Subscribe now so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Stay until the end and keep progressing with us, one mindset shift at a time. This video isn't just another trading video, it's a mirror for your mindset. Like now, comment what resonates, and stay until the end. Because one idea here could change how you think, and how you trade. Let's go. It is never about discovering the ultimate strategy, the hidden indicator, or the perfect combination of moving averages. Those things were already within your reach long before this instant. The true breakthrough is far more intimate and far more brutal. It is the precise second when you stop trying to master the market and begin, for the first time in your trading life, to master yourself. In the beginning, like every newcomer, you genuinely believed that trading was a technical pursuit. You devoured courses on candlestick patterns, spent weeks memorizing Fibonacci ratios, drew thousands of trend lines, and labeled every swing high. And lo, with the solemnity of a religious scholar annotating scripture, you were convinced that the missing piece was always one more video, one more paid mentorship, one more, proven, setup that the gurus swore would finally deliver the consistency you craved. You repeated the mantra to yourself, as soon as I have the perfect system, everything will change. Then, after months, sometimes years, of relentless searching, a strange and uncomfortable truth begins to surface. You already know enough. You can identify high probability entries with reasonable accuracy. You understand where to place a stop loss that respects the structure of the chart. You have written rules for risk management that any professional would nod at in quiet approval. And yet, when the moment of execution arrives, something inside you hijacks the entire process. You exit winners far too early because the profit felt big enough. You move your stop loss, just this once, because you cannot bear the thought of being wrong again. You skip perfectly valid setups because fear whispers that this one will be the trade that finally breaks you. You take impulsive revenge trades the moment the previous one stops you out. That is the moment the veil lifts. The problem was never the system. The problem was the 6 inches between your ears. This realization rarely arrives gently. It is usually delivered by the market with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Perhaps it comes after your 5th blown account. Perhaps it arrives on a single catastrophic day when 2 weeks of disciplined profits are surrendered in a 3-hour emotional meltdown. Perhaps it dawns on you while you watch your equity curve climb to a new high only to plummet again because you refuse to take profits when your plan demanded it. Whatever the trigger, the pain is exquisite, and it forces you to confront a question far more terrifying than, what is wrong with my strategy? The real question, the one that keeps you awake at night, is, what am I still refusing to accept about who I really am when no one is watching? Because trading does not merely expose your weaknesses, it amplifies them until they are impossible to ignore. Every character flaw you have spent a lifetime managing in polite society is suddenly projected onto a 4K monitor in unforgiving detail. The impatience you display in traffic becomes the same impatience that makes you enter trades before confirmation. The fear of missing out that drives you to refresh social media every 30 seconds becomes the FOMO that pulls you into low probability chasing moves. The difficulty you have sticking to diets, workout plans, or any other form of delayed gratification in life manifests as an inability to let winners run. Trading becomes a merciless mirror, and the reflection is often ugly. Yet it is precisely in front of that mirror that the breakthrough begins to form. You start noticing behavioral patterns that have nothing whatsoever to do with price action. You realize that every area of life where you lack discipline leaks directly into your platform. You see that your tendency to seek external validation in relationships shows up as an inability to trust your own analysis without checking Twitter first. You observe that the same perfectionism that paralyzes you when writing an important email paralyzes you when a trade is 20 ticks in profit and you cannot decide whether to take it or let it run. Trading ceases to be a technical exercise and reveals itself as the most sophisticated personal development program ever created, one with a tuition fee measured in real money and real emotional pain. The moment you internalize this truth, your entire approach begins to transform. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable, the next candle, the news event, the whims of institutional algos, and you redirect every ounce of energy toward the only variable that is fully under your command, your own reactions. You come to understand, bone deep, that the market is a neutral organism. It has no opinion about you, your plan, your hopes, or your fears. It simply exists, offering probability distributions disguised as price bars. The only lever you can truly pull to improve your long-term expectancy is the lever of self-mastery. But the market does not grant this insight cheaply. It tests you mercilessly. Just when you believe you have finally learned your lesson, it delivers another string of losses to see whether the change was genuine or merely superficial. It forces you to sit with your worst habits until you are so thoroughly disgusted by them that transformation becomes the only bearable option. The breakthrough almost always arrives at the exact moment when quitting feels like the most rational choice. It is in that valley of despair, when the ego has been pulverized and the illusion of control lies in ruins, that surrender finally occurs. And surrender, in this context, is not defeat. It is the highest form of clarity. You stop trying to predict the future. You start responding to the present with logic and equanimity. You stop needing to win every trade. You start needing only to execute your edge with fidelity. You stop demanding perfection. You start demanding consistency. And when this shift settles into the marrow of your bones, something extraordinary happens. Trading ceases to feel like warfare against an adversary and begins to feel like a disciplined collaboration with probability itself. Losses no longer register as personal attacks. They become data points, expensive, yes, but ultimately neutral feedback about the inherent randomness of any single outcome. You no longer spiral into self-loathing after a stop-out because you understand, at the deepest level, that the market did not betray you, your expectations did. You judge yourself not by the result of any individual trade, but by the quality of your process. If you followed your rules and the trade lost, you are content. The system is intact. Trust in the process deepens. Before I continue, let me pause and speak directly to you, the person reading these words right now. If you are currently wrestling with fear of missing out, with chronic overtrading, with the inability to let winners run, or with any of the countless psychological demons that haunt traders, please hear this. Your struggle is not evidence of inadequacy. It is evidence that you are close. The very pain you feel is the raw material from which mastery is forged. That is why I wrote the ebook Master Your Mind, Master Your Trades, not to give you another strategy, but to hand you a practical, step-by-step roadmap for dismantling the emotional barriers that stand between you and consistent execution. If you are tired of repeating the same cycles and ready to do the inner work that 99% of traders refuse to do, the link is in the description and pinned comment. Your future self, the calm, disciplined, consistently profitable version of you, is waiting on the other side of that decision. Now, back to the transformation. Once this internal shift solidifies, an almost paradoxical phenomenon occurs. Your external results begin to improve precisely because you stop caring so much about them. You no longer chase trades out of boredom or desperation. You no longer flip between time frames like a man possessed. You no longer overanalyze every tick because you have learned that overanalysis is simply fear-wearing the mask of diligence. You do less, yet you achieve more. Patience ceases to be a virtue you admire in others and becomes a lived experience. You wait. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, for the exact confluence of factors your plan requires. You take only the highest probability setups. You manage risk with surgical precision. The adrenaline rush that once felt like the point of trading becomes something you actively avoid, because you have discovered that boredom is the natural habitat of discipline, and discipline is the mother of consistency. You also begin to see, with crystalline clarity, how much energy you previously squandered. The endless late-night chart marathons, the compulsive strategy hopping, the emotional journaling that was really just self-flagellation in disguise, all of it was avoidance. You were not searching for a better system, you were searching for a way to escape the discomfort of facing your own lack of emotional control. The breakthrough teaches you to stop running from discomfort and to start inhabiting it with awareness. Waiting for a setup ceases to feel like torture and begins to feel like meditation. Losses cease to feel like punishment and begin to feel like the most honest teachers you have ever had. At this stage, trading becomes radically simpler, never easier, but infinitely simpler. Your primary question is no longer, how much can I make, but how little can I afford to lose? You begin treating your trading account like a business rather than a casino ticket. Your job description crystallizes: you are a professional risk manager who gets paid when probability eventually converges with preparation. Consistency emerges not as a burst of motivation but as the natural byproduct of disciplined repetition. You might not even notice it at first. You will have a losing day and, instead of panicking, you will close the platform, go for a walk, and return tomorrow to execute the plan again. You will have a winning week and, instead of increasing your size because you suddenly feel invincible, you will stick to your predetermined risk parameters with monastic calm. Your emotional state slowly decouples from your P&L. That decoupling is freedom. The deepest realization of all is this: the breakthrough is not a single dramatic event. It is a gradual, almost imperceptible awakening that occurs in layers. It is the day you stop trying to outsmart the market and start aligning with it. It is the week you stop chasing money and start guarding your discipline as the most precious asset you own. It is the month you stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. And it is the quiet, private understanding that success in trading is not defined by never losing, because losing is Inevitable, but by never again losing control of yourself. The charts themselves do not change, but your perception of them undergoes a profound metamorphosis. Where you once saw threats, you now see probabilities. Where you once saw chaos, you now perceive rhythm, not mystical, but psychological. You begin to sense the emotional temperature of the market, when retail traders are panicking and institutions are accumulating, when greed has reached fever pitch. And a reversal is imminent, when uncertainty is so thick that the smartest move is to do nothing at all. You no longer ride those emotional waves because you have stepped off the roller coaster entirely. You have become the observer, rather than the participant. This is the essence of the breakthrough. You stop trying to find the perfect trade and start becoming the perfect trader, the one who can sit for hours in uncertainty without needing to act, who can watch price retrace halfway to a stop loss without flinching, who can book a loss and immediately begin looking for the next setup without a trace of self-doubt. You have shifted from trying to make money to becoming the kind of person who deserves to keep it. By the time you reach this level, a new sensation settles over you, genuine control. Not control over price, that remains forever illusory, but control over your own impulses, reactions, and decisions. You finally understand the secret every professional trader guards like sacred knowledge. Trading is 90% psychology and 10% mechanics. Master the 90%, and the 10% becomes almost trivial. And that, ultimately, is what the entire painful, exhilarating, humbling journey has been leading toward your first authentic breakthrough. It has nothing to do with a secret indicator or a magical formula. It has everything to do with the quiet, invisible, internal revolution that occurs long before the profits compound. Because before you can ever hope to conquer the market, you must first conquer the far more treacherous territory of your own mind. And once that territory is yours, truly, irrevocably yours, consistent success ceases to feel like a distant dream and begins to feel like the most natural outcome in the world. Before every great trader emerges the master, there is always the crucible, the emotional collapse that feels like the end but is actually the beginning. It is the phase that humbles you completely, stripping away every illusion until all that remains is raw truth. This is the dark night of the trader's soul, and it is non-negotiable. Trading does not merely test your strategy, it tests your character under the harshest possible conditions. Every hidden belief about money, every unresolved insecurity, every subconscious need for control or validation rises to the surface like toxic gas. The collapse begins slowly, a string of losses, a blown account, a perfect setup that fails spectacularly. Doubt creeps in. You replay old trades, obsessively, tormenting yourself with, how could I have been so stupid? Your confidence evaporates. The charts that once felt exciting now feel heavy with menace. You want to trade, but fear paralyses you. You don't want to trade, but you cannot stop obsessing. You are at war with yourself, and both armies are losing. Most traders respond by running, changing strategies weekly, binge-watching YouTube gurus, grasping for the next holy grail that will finally make the pain stop. But no external fix can heal what is, at its core, an internal fracture. The market is simply holding up a mirror, and the reflection is unbearable. Yet if you can endure the discomfort long enough to listen, a quieter voice emerges beneath the noise. This pain has a purpose. The emotional collapse is not failure, it is initiation. The market is systematically dismantling every false layer you have built, the ego that believed it could force outcomes, the impatience that Demanded instant gratification, the illusion that you could control randomness. What feels like destruction is actually demolition in service of reconstruction. You cannot learn true emotional control until you have lost it completely. You cannot develop authentic discipline until you have tasted the consequences of recklessness. You cannot cultivate genuine patience until you have felt the excruciating cost of rushing. Every wound is a teacher in disguise. At the nadir of the collapse, when quitting feels like mercy, something extraordinary begins. The old impulsive self begins to die. Growth always feels like death at first. Because the mind clings desperately to the familiar, even when the familiar is broke and miserable. But if you stay, if you refuse to run, detachment slowly emerges. Losses stop feeling personal. The market is no longer an enemy, it is simply a probabilistic arena. You stop blaming and start observing. You stop reacting and start analyzing. You treat every trade as data rather than as a referendum on your worth. From that fertile void, you rebuild. Your plan becomes simpler, your execution cleaner. Your focus laser sharp on process rather than outcome. Calmness, once a foreign concept, becomes your default state. A loss no longer ruins your day. A win no longer inflates your ego. You have become centered, unshakable. This is the path every consistently profitable trader has walked: pain, confusion, collapse, reflection, rebirth. The emotional collapse is not something to avoid, it is the doorway every real trader must pass through. It is the market's way of asking, how badly do you want this? Those who quit never realize that the pain was the tuition. Those who endure emerge transformed, no longer trading for excitement, but for precision, no longer chasing outcomes, but trusting process, no longer needing to prove anything, but simply executing with quiet, unshakable mastery. The moment you stop trying to control the market is the moment you finally gain control over yourself. And that is the true breakthrough, not when your account curve turns upward, but when your emotions cease to dictate your decisions. When inner peace becomes more valuable than any single trade's profit. In that stillness, everything clicks. You stop seeing trading as a sprint to riches and begin seeing it as a lifelong practice of self-mastery. The market ceases to be an adversary and becomes the most honest mirror you will ever own. Every session teaches you something new about patience, about discipline, about the quiet strength required to do nothing when nothing is the highest expectancy move. If you are in the collapse right now, if you feel lost, burned out, or on the verge of quitting, understand this: you are closer than you have ever been. Every trader you admire has stood exactly where you stand now. The difference is they stayed through the darkness. They allowed the breaking to become a breakthrough. The collapse is not the end of your journey. It is the death of the trader you used to be and the birth of the trader you were always meant to become. And once you rise from those ashes, calm, disciplined, patient, and emotionally bulletproof, no drawdown, no losing streak, no uncertainty will ever shake you again. You will have already faced your worst self and evolved beyond it. That is when you know you are no longer merely surviving the market. You are mastering it, one calm, calculated, unshakable decision at a time. There comes a day, ordinary on the surface, extraordinary beneath it, when everything finally clicks. You are sitting at your desk, watching price approach your predefined level. You enter the trade without hesitation, set your stop and target exactly where your plan demands, and then, nothing dramatic happens. You do not refresh the platform every 3 seconds. You do not feel the familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach. You simply execute and walk away. Hours later, you return, close the trade according to rule, and realize something has fundamentally changed. You are no longer panicking. You are calm, focused, detached. That is the breakthrough moment every trader spends years chasing. And it is only the beginning. Most people assume the breakthrough arrives wrapped in fireworks, a doubled account, a 30-day green streak, a sudden influx of confidence. But the real breakthrough is quieter, deeper, and infinitely more powerful. It is the moment you stop treating the market like a battle to be won and start treating it like a probability game you have finally learned to play with discipline. It is the moment fear and greed lose their grip on your trigger finger. Paradoxically, this moment almost never follows your biggest win. It almost always follows your most devastating loss, the one that burned away every remaining illusion. About overnight riches, about revenge trading, about forcing the market to do your bidding. In the ashes of that defeat, acceptance is born. You finally see the market for what it is, infinite opportunity wrapped in zero guarantees, a domain that rewards patience over speed, logic over emotion, discipline over excitement. From that point forward, everything operates differently. Your setups remain the same, but your relationship to them is transformed. You enter a trade already at peace with both possible outcomes. Stop loss hit. Expected. Target reached. Expected. You are no longer emotionally invested in the result, you are invested only in flawless execution. That detachment is the dividing line between the consistently profitable and the perpetually frustrated. Before the breakthrough, every trade was a referendum on your worth. A win validated your existence, a loss confirmed your worst fears about yourself. Now you understand that no single trade, or even a string of trades, defines you. Only the integrity of your process does. That understanding liberates you from the mental roller coaster that destroys most retail traders. Losses still occur, of course. But they no longer shake the foundations of your confidence. Because your confidence is no longer built on winning streaks. It is built on the quiet certainty that you know exactly what you are doing, why you are doing it, and how you will respond regardless of outcome. That is authentic power. Your trading days begin to look radically different. You are no longer glued to the screen, desperate for action. You wait, sometimes for days, for your precise setup. When it appears, you enter without second guessing. You do not move your stop loss, just this once. You do not take profits early because the money feels good enough. You do not panic when price temporarily moves against you. You follow your plan with a calm that once would have felt alien. At first, this calmness is almost disorienting. You almost miss the adrenaline, the dopamine hit of an impulsive trade. But soon you realize that peace is what you were searching for all along. In that peace, your cognition is unclouded. Decisions are sharper. Sleep is deeper. Life outside trading improves dramatically. Because you are no longer carrying the emotional weight of every tick. Then, almost as a byproduct, the results begin to shift. Losing streaks that once wiped out months of progress now register as minor drawdowns. Your equity curve smooths and begins a steady upward trajectory. And you understand, with a depth that defies words, that the market did not change. You did. Consistency is revealed to be the natural consequence of self-mastery. You cannot control the Next candle, but you can control your response to it. Master your response, and you have already won the only battle that matters. Every trader's breakthrough feels unique, yet they all share the same unmistakable signature. Quiet confidence, emotional detachment, crystalline clarity. Losses become tuition rather than tragedy. Patience becomes your most powerful weapon. Doing nothing, sitting on your hands when conditions are not ideal, becomes the highest form move in your arsenal. This mindset does not merely make you a better trader, it makes you a better human. You stop reacting impulsively in relationships. You stop allowing fear to dictate life decisions. You begin trusting process in every domain: health, business, personal growth. Trading, it turns out, is the ultimate training ground for letting go of illusory control while maintaining iron discipline. The skills bleed into everything. But the breakthrough is not a permanent state you achieve and then coast upon. It is a garden you must tend daily. One moment of greed, one slip into revenge trading, one lapse of awareness can drag you backward. Consistency is therefore not perfection, it is vigilant consciousness. You remain consistent by remaining aware of the emotional traps, aware of your impulses, aware of the quiet moments when ego tries to reassert itself. This awareness is what elevates good traders into great ones. You no longer need to be right, you need only to be disciplined. You stop measuring progress in dollars and start measuring it in adherence to rules. You begin to enjoy the process more than the profit, because the process is where freedom lives. Think about it honestly. Give two traders the exact same proven strategy. One will destroy his account because his psychology is unstable. The other will compound steadily because he executes with mechanical precision. The difference is never knowledge. It is always mindset. That is why the breakthrough feels like liberation, because you finally stop fighting yourself. Trading ceases to be a competition against the market or against other traders on social media. It becomes the purest personal journey of self-mastery available in the modern world. Your only opponent is your own emotional weakness. And when that weakness no longer controls you, you have already made it, regardless of what your current account balance says. You will still have losing days. You will still make mistakes. But they will no longer destabilize you. You have built emotional armor forged in the fires of every previous collapse. That armor is your ultimate edge. When you reach this stage, you will look back on the frustration, the blown accounts, the sleepless nights, and you will smile, not because the pain was pleasant, but because it was necessary. Without it, you could never have developed the psychological muscle required to handle real success when it finally arrives. The market will always test you. Uncertainty is its native language. But after your breakthrough, you no longer fear the test. You respect it. You play the long game. You think in probabilities, not certainties. You focus not on forcing the next big win but on surviving long enough for compounding to do its inevitable work. This is the final transformation, from reactive amateur to strategic professional, from emotional chaos to inner peace, from chasing illusions to living mastery. You have endured the confusion, the collapse, the painful rebuilding. Now you inhabit the quiet space where the market can rage and your emotions remain untouched. You earned that stillness through blood, sweat, and countless lessons paid for in real money. And that stillness, that calm in the eye of the storm, is the greatest edge any trader can ever possess. So when your breakthrough finally arrives, do not look for fireworks or celebration. Look inward for stillness. Look for the deep, unshakable peace that comes from knowing you have become the trader you once only pretended to be, calm under fire, disciplined without exception, patient when the world demands action, and at peace when the charts offer nothing at all. You will not need to announce it. The charts will speak. Your equity curve will speak. Your unflinching consistency will speak louder than any words ever could. That is the exquisite beauty of the true breakthrough. It does not change what you do. It changes who you are. And once you have evolved into the kind of person who can remain calm in chaos, disciplined under pressure, and patient in the void, the market has no choice but to reward you, not because it suddenly became easier, but because you finally became unbreakable. The breakthrough is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of mastery. It is the moment you stop chasing success and start embodying it, one calm, confident, consistent trade at a time.